What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Each Adventure channel. My name is Josh, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you guys through a full lap of my very first dirt bike race. So in what may or may not have been a good idea, my buddy Matt and I decided it'd be a fun thing to do to sign up for our very first dirt bike race, which ended up being the 6 Hours of Glen Helen. So the 6 Hours of Glen Helen is an endurance race where you can have 1 to 3 people and basically complete this 6-hour race as a team. And so Matt, in this video here, he's just completed his first lap, and now it's my turn. So I gotta apologize right off the bat. I didn't test my camera before this race, and it ended up biting me pretty bad because I didn't realize until I came back to look at this footage that there is no audio. So I apologize for that. I know a lot of people like to hear the bike sounds, but I'm gonna do my best to try to get through this and just narrate what is the first lap of this crazy experience that we had here. And so this will be part of a much longer video that I'm going to make that kind of goes through the entire race and also the events that kind of led us to signing up for this thing, because I think the backstory is pretty interesting, and then the race itself, even though you'll see this lap really didn't have a whole lot of mishaps, it definitely didn't stay that way. About a third of the way through the race, things started going sideways a little bit. So yeah, there's a story to tell there. But anyways, this first section here, this is my very first time on a racetrack with other people, to be honest. So I've ridden a couple practice tracks before, but this is my first time on an actual racetrack with other racers. And so like these turns and these ruts were like all brand new to me. And to top it off, I mean, we're doing this thing on a 1990 KDX200, which isn't really the bike for this thing. But it ended up being a pretty good time. So you can see I'm just really timid in these corners, and it didn't really get much better for me as the race progressed. But these first hills, this first section is all on the track, and these hills are massive. And if you've watched any of my other videos, I don't usually have a problem with hill climbs, but I am deathly afraid of downhills still. I've gotten a lot better over the last couple years, but you know, basically I had no choice but to just charge down these things. And the brakes on the KDX, I don't know if it's just this model or what was going on, but I was having issues with the brakes going downhill. But yeah, you just look at this, like this is a crazy hill climb, and it doesn't get much better for me because once you get to the top of this one, you come down another one that's just as steep and sketchy. So you know, and you'll see guys just jumping down these. I have no idea how they do that, but you know, it ended up being okay. I think because I had to force myself. It was either I charge down this thing or I fall down, and I didn't want to fall, so charging down it was. So like I mentioned before, this is a team race. So Matt led off, and he actually, you know, did the starting line and completed the first lap. And then once we switched off, this was my first lap, but it's actually our second lap as a team. And I'm kind of glad we did it that way, because I think I would have been a lot more nervous and quite frankly a bit scared to be just on that whole shot straightaway with like a bunch of other riders. And then Matt was telling me that, you know, the pack stayed pretty close together in our class, so there was a lot of bottlenecks and stuff on the track. And so when it came my turn, I don't think the fastest guys had really, you know, caught up to this section yet. And so I had a lot of this track like basically to myself this lap, which was nice. But yeah, like this hill climb too, this is probably the longest one there. Probably not as steep as the one we just saw, but you know, if you didn't want to stall on this thing, because you know, once you lose your momentum with how loose and stuff the dirt is going up that, I don't think it would have been very fun to start on that in the middle. But yeah, once you get up that hill climb, it kind of opens up into this flowy, you know, ridge top track section, which this is the kind of stuff that I'm used to. I ride a lot of fire roads and things like that, a lot of dual sport stuff. So this was like right in my wheelhouse here. And so you can see I'm not going super fast, but you know, I'm maintaining a decent speed, at least I thought. This lap ended up being my fastest lap, which I don't really know how it's possible, but you know, I was energized, I was motivated, and I hadn't gotten fatigued or tired yet, so I guess it does make sense that this was my fastest lap of the whole race. But anyways, you can see here how the track's in, fairly good condition. It's smooth. It's not too muddy or like rutted or anything yet. And that definitely wasn't the case as the day progressed. I think this spot stayed in better condition than a lot of the other areas, but some of the other areas on the track just started getting thrashed with like ruts and rocks and just loose sand, and it was spots where you didn't think that that the track would get that messed up ended up being like the worst, at least in my opinion. But yeah, so this section went on for a little while, and you can see like I'm still out here by myself, which was weird. I was just like, oh man, like this is not what I expected. I expect people flying past me, and flying past me they ended up doing. You'll see it basically as soon as we get through this next section here. So this was the first like single track section that we went through, and again, this is a little bit more what I'm used to, slower speed technical stuff, but you'll see in a minute that some guys just fly through this stuff. And the KDX did pretty well. Its suspension's not really good for like these little whoop sections like this one right here, and it's not that bad on this lap, but it got really whooped out after a couple laps of people just ripping around the track. But you can see I'm flowing through this. This felt really good to me. And there's a spot here where I realized that line on the right was actually the better line to take, and it kind of goes into this little sandy uphill section, and this is one of the other spots on the track that got really whooped out. It's relatively flat here, but as the race progressed, this spot got really nasty, and unless you were going up this with like a lot of speed and good suspension, it was not fun. You see this guy's passing me here. And so there's one more single track section coming up, so I can getting past again. And that's the story of me for the whole day, just getting passed by people. But it's all good. But yeah, so here's the second single track section. And this section was really cool. This one was really tight and narrow. And it was here where I realized that wraparound handguards are really nice, because I smacked my hand on one of these bushes. I think it was that one. And those plastic ones that are on there on the KDX just bent all the way back and just smacked me right in the hand. But luckily this section wasn't too long. This area caused some bottlenecks for me later on. I let these guys pass. I heard them coming up behind me, and then I stalled the bike. So had to start it up, and then I stalled it again. So I probably should have looked back here to make sure there was nobody else coming around the corner, but I was just excited to get going again. And that was actually the end of the single track section. So this next part, after we go up this hill, we kind of go down like a long canyon, and it almost seems like a river runoff or something like that. The terrain was really weird compared to the rest of the course. It went from this dirt into like this rocky stuff, and then all of a sudden there was water, and it was pretty cool. So you can kind of see like the rocks on the side and like the dirt. I don't know, the terrain just changes here. Instead of being more bulldozed dirt, it was like rocky and like I said, kind of like waterfall-y almost. There was like these little step sections where you could go down, like right here. But this section was pretty cool. Yeah, see, this guy's flying past me. But I think I did pretty well through here, actually. Looking back at some of the other laps, I think I made it down quicker on this lap than I did on any of the other ones, which was really weird, because you would think after I kind of knew what to expect, I would have been faster. But again, after a few laps, the fatigue and the tiredness started setting in, and it was just misery for me for a while. So like I said, there'll be another video that kind of talks about the progression of the day, and the kind of the overall race story. But like, look at this guy flying past me again. This section here too, this one was fun on this first lap, and then after this, again, this was another one of those sections where just after people going through it, like rocks got dug up and like there was all these ruts all over the place, and it was not fun later on. But looking at this footage coming through here, I think I did pretty well. It's such a bummer you can't hear the sound of the bike, because just that two-stroke sound is so good to your ears, especially if you like motorcycles and stuff. But we have an adapter on the way, so this kind of stuff hopefully won't ever happen again. The main issue ended up being that the GoPro mic adapter doesn't take what they call a TRRS connector, which is the connector that has the 3 rings on it. So think of your like your headsets that have headphones and a microphone. It doesn't support those kind of connectors, so it only supports the TRS connectors. So lessons were learned, but yeah, looking at this, I mean, I had this kind of section all to myself too. I think towards the end, people start passing me. There we go. Look at these guys. These are the fast guys. Like I'm standing still. So this is kind of the first glimpse of the street. You can see the rest of the track on the other side over there, and the street section, not this one particularly, but the street section plays a role in kind of the overall story of the race. But yeah, this was so much better on this first lap. I remember just being miserable going through here later on. That little jump was cool. So now we kind of get out of the single track and the canyon stuff, and we head back out on the track for a little bit. And see, these guys are just flying. And like I mentioned, this is all brand new to me. I mean, I've been passed on trails and stuff before, but like I said, this is my first time on a racetrack. So when I see these guys like passing me like I'm standing still, and I just see, wheels in the air in front of my face, like it is the weirdest feeling. If you've never raced before, it's the weirdest feeling imaginable, because you're just amazed, number one, and you're just like, how in the world do they do that? And like I said, I felt like I was, I knew I wasn't going like super race speed, but I felt like I'm riding faster than I normally do on trails. So yeah, like this it's just amazing. Like I don't know how these guys ride so fast. Another weird thing too, so if you look at these jumps, most of them have like flat sections at the top, but these jumps are so tall that when you come off the other end, I mean, you're floating in the air for a little bit, and if you come off the top of those jumps with too much speed, you're going all the way down to the bottom. You're not landing on the incline. All right, so this next section here, we end up out on like the flat track section and a little bit of where they do like the trophy trucks, and I'm not really sure what else these tracks over here are for, but you can see over there on the right, like that's where some people were camping. But in what you would think would be like the easiest part of the course, all of this just got majorly destroyed by the end of the race. I think this was like the worst section towards the end, because you see the roofs flying up and hitting me in the face. Just because there was just rocks everywhere. There was a couple sections where like the turns were a lot better. So for example, this one right here, I think this section was actually better towards the end because people had created like these berms just from going through the turn so much that it was actually easier to get through some of this section, that last corner particularly. But this first lap, I felt like I was like, man, like this is nice. I can open it up, get a lot of speed. Like there's no jumps, really nothing to worry about. But that was not the case later on. Like all this was just not good. And on the KDX, the suspension's decent, but it's not race bike suspension. So after getting through this first lap and hitting these sections later on, everything was just so much worse. And then this section here also got progressively worse. And this mud comes off in just a minute, so don't worry, it's not gonna be like that for the rest of the video. But this was like a big sand wash, and you can see all the tire ruts and stuff in there, and then it got really whooped out there at the end from people braking. But yeah, that was probably like my least favorite section on the whole course. But again, like, look, I mean, it's completely flat. Like, you would think that, you know, how messed up could it be? It's all flat. But that was not the case. Like this, it just got really nasty and just bouncing around, and, you know, what looks like the kind of relaxing part of the race ended up being what I felt was some of the harder sections to ride in. I was much happier up in the hills than on this flat stuff. And so there's a bit more of the flat section, and then we'll head back up into the hills in a minute. But again, like these long straightaways, you would think you could just fly down, and people did, but people that are at way greater skill levels than I am. But luckily, I think this mud comes off here in just a second. I think I use this straightaway as a chance to wipe the camera off. One thing I've learned from trail riding and just doing videos for so long, that you got to clean the camera off, because you never know if it might be dusty or, you know, in this case, mud. So you're welcome. You're welcome. It's the mark of someone that's been doing YouTube videos for a while. But yeah, I mean, look how smooth this is. And I'm just remembering my last few laps just not being happy with any of this stuff. And so this here, I guess apparently these are doubles, because I saw guys jumping over these, and I'm just rolling over them. Like I said, first time. So this is the last bit of the flat stuff here, and then we go back onto the main motocross track, and then up into those hills you see up there in the front. And so I mentioned in a previous video that me and my buddy Matt actually wanted to do the 24-hour race last year, and we were inspired to try to do that from Torture Test Magazine. So Gabe from Torture Test Magazine, he was racing here on this day as well, and he actually had the pit spot right next to us. But rather than doing it as a team, where you're allowed up to 3 riders and 2 bikes, he was doing it solo in the Ironman class, where it's basically just 1 rider and 1 bike for the full 6 hours. So that's insane, because it was really hard for us just to do this on, you know, 2 bikes with a 2-man team. So I couldn't imagine doing this solo, you know, just relying on 1 bike to get you through the whole thing. But yeah, I had actually showed up for the 24-hour race, the very first one they did when they were on the CRF 250X, and so I got to kind of watch and experience the last 2 hours of that, and it was cool. Like, I was there, and, you know, for never really being at a race or near a track before, I didn't feel out of place. Like, it just felt normal, which is really, really weird. But anyways, you know, here we are, we're back up in the hills again, and again, like, this is kind of what I'm used to right here. It's kind of these wide, almost like fire road type ridgeline trails, and this part was pretty cool. There was a downhill section that was a little bit intimidating up here, but overall, this last section, like I said, after getting out of that flat stuff, which ended up being pretty nasty, this was kind of a welcome change up here at the top, just to kind of be on some flowy track. And like I said, these ridge tops actually held up better than most of the other course. Like, it was all the flat stuff that got really messed up, and this stuff wasn't really that bad at all. And so we had one goal for this thing, which was to finish the race. So we entered basically knowing that we probably wouldn't win. Obviously, definitely not going to win. But we also, you know, didn't really have high expectations as far as being competitive. Our goal was just to see if we can finish this thing on this KDX. And I'll spoil it a little bit. We did finish it, but we did have to swap the KDX about 2/3 of the way through. And if you were following the story on Instagram, you kind of know what happened. But like I said, there's going to be another video that kind of documents the whole race, because it got really interesting. But this here, so there's a left turn here that I didn't see until the very last lap. And had we known we could have gone that way, that would have saved us some grief, because this section right here plays a major role in in kind of the whole overall race story. So I won't spoil it, but like I said, if you saw the Instagram story, I think I have it highlighted on my Instagram page. You can check that out. But we will definitely be making a video to kind of tell the rest of this story here. But yeah, this is kind of the concrete section. There's like 2 or 3 concrete sections, and those concrete sections are scary. Like, it's got these, like, this dirt on top of it, and it just makes it really, really slippery. And then right here, I'm seeing that guy over there on the right, and I totally didn't see the course on the left, so I just went right past it. So, I don't know. I didn't even see it. I was just looking at that guy. I thought he was just taking a break. But, all right, here we go. Back on the course again. And so right here, I think I make my first pass of the whole race. I passed a couple people, and it's usually just because they were stopped or stalled. And so this kid right here fell over, and he was picking his bike up. So it's just funny. And then I get passed again. But we kind of go through this part was actually really cool. It was really fun. And then here's that road section we saw earlier. And so the other track's right there to the right. It comes out of that canyon, I think, somewhere right around here. And then this next section's really cool. Look at that guy, just flying. This section's cool here too. So it's not very long, but it kind of goes through this little creek bed. And when I came through here, I was like, oh man, like I do not want to crash or stall in here. And because it looks muddier than it was, but it was really more rocky than anything, except for maybe this last turn. But that part was pretty cool. But you can see, like, people just, I was too slow for everybody going through these sections. It was really, really nerve-wracking to go through those and have people just start piling up behind you. And then at one point, it wasn't on this lap, but there was a guy that tried to pass me through here, and all I saw out of my peripheral vision was his front tire go into one of these whoops right here. And then I don't know if he tumbled or fell or what happened, but I didn't see him after that. So I felt kind of bad, but I guess supposedly that's the way it goes. You got to be really careful in those passes. And for the most part, I try to stay out of everybody's way. As you can kind of tell, when there's fast guys coming up behind me, I try to move out of the way. But, things happen, I guess. So this is one of the last hill climbs, and this has like a pretty steep downhill section right here. Not as bad as the other ones, but this one kind of goes into this sweeping right turn, and this turn got really rutted out too. So you can already see this is just the first lap, and there's a bunch of berms and stuff here. But now we're basically back out on the track section, and this is really close to the end of the race. And I'm feeling good. I didn't really know like where exactly I was. Once you start riding around, and you're mainly paying attention to the track, and it's kind of the opposite of when you're trail riding, because when I'm trail riding, I'm looking at like landmarks and just trying to make mental notes of where I am so I don't get lost. And being out here on this course was like the complete opposite. Like, you're 100% focused on the next turn, the next berm, the next hill, the next jump. This little pipe is cool too. This is like a signature Glen Helen thing. There's a couple of these, but there was only one in this race here. But yeah, it was completely opposite for what I'm used to. See, I messed up that turn. My biggest issues I think I ran into this race were the downhills, and then obviously the cornering, because I'm just, like I said, I'm not used to this stuff. This is my first time doing this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And so now we're getting into the last few turns of the lap. So there's just a couple. It's relatively flat right here, and then there's a couple jumps on the very last straightaway. And yeah, you can see. Look at my cornering is just awful. Right there wasn't too bad. But here's the very last straightaway, and these jumps are pretty big. Got a little air on them, not much. There's guys that are clearing these things, and I think I saw one guy on the last lap do like like a little leg kick, and people were doing whips and stuff over the jump. So it was pretty cool. And then, just for good measure, I stalled the bike right at the at the lap marker. But there you go. There is one full lap. The way this works is you come out here and you go into the pit section. You have to go all the way around through the pits. And we were on the first main pit row. And so, it was kind of cool being on the KDX because, you get a lot of people just kind of waving and, just, cheering and, because you don't see a lot of bikes out there. I mean, we were on, me and Gabe were on I think what were the two oldest bikes in the whole race. His 87 XR 600R and then this 1990 KDX200. So we definitely got a lot of looks and a lot of, people kind of coming over to us and just talking to us and stuff about the bikes, which was really cool. But I think that's it. That's going to be the first lap. I'm going to pull in right here and let Matt take the bike. Like I said, there's more to this story, so if you want to see that, definitely subscribe down below. And if you like this content, give me a like. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm not going to do my signature sign-off here, but yeah, this was an experience. And as tired and as exhausted and fatigued as I was, I passed Matt right here. It was definitely something that I would totally do again. I wasn't quite sure at the end of the day after the race, but after about a week, I'm ready to do it again. It was a lot of fun. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Thanks for watching the video. If you liked what you saw, please let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button. If you are new here, please subscribe to see more adventures just like this one. For information about my riding gear or the various ways you can help support the channel, please check out the links below or head over to www.eachadventure.com. I'll see you in the next one.